Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be setting up this 10-gallon tank. I've had it for a while. I have the Hardscape for it. I have everything I need for it except for the plants. I've just trimmed most of my tanks and used it for setting up other tanks. I've sold tanks. I've just been doing a lot. I've had a lot going on. My sister just got married, and so this little 10-gallon has kind of been forgotten about. I've had the piece of driftwood soaking for probably over a month now, and the water in the bucket has like evaporated enough that now the driftwood is partially not even wet anymore anyway. So I'm like, you know what, I need to just get the tank set up. I was feeling kind of bored today. It's very hot outside right now and I do not feel like being outside working, so I thought it'd be a good day to just set up my 10-gallon tank. You know, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I have most of the stuff, so I'm going to get the substrate in, the hardscape in, and then I'm going to make a trip to my fish store and I'm going to pick out whatever plant catches my fancy and bring it home and plunk it in here, get water added. I won't be adding fish straight away. I don't have fish to add to it and I don't really want to buy fish today. So it should be a pretty easy start. You know, if the ammonia builds way up in the tank, if the plants melt off, who cares? There's no fish in there, so I can just kind of let it sit. So to get started, I will be adding the ADA Amazonia Aqua Soil. This is what I love for my tanks. I just bought a big bag of it off of Amazon. It's just a good nutrient-rich first layer for the soil, for the plants, really, so that I do not have to add fertilizers or anything like that to my tanks. I'm definitely gonna need more than that. And now I'm going to be adding the sand. I cap off my aqua soil with sand. I'm using just some cheap play sand. At this point, some of you guys are probably laughing, being like, why did you spend so much money on aqua soil and then not spend any money hardly on sand? Well, I just think that the play sand looks super natural and neat. And I do cut corners on things that I'm not as particular about. One of those being sand. I'll spend more money on like the nutrient layer for the plants. I'll spend more money on the hardscape. And sometimes I'll spend more money on plants. However, I do try to keep that at a minimum as well. Keeping fish tanks does not have to be expensive. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. You can easily do it on a budget. And play sand is one of the ways that you can keep it inexpensive. I like having a good thick layer of sand. It just helps store beneficial bacteria. It helps the plants take root very well. And it also helps to filter the tank. In fact, I don't think that's quite enough sand. I have the sand in, and next up is the hardscape. I have this piece of driftwood. Let's see if I can, there we go. I have this and some rocks, which honestly this looks a lot bigger now that I put it in with sand and everything. It raises it up more in the tank. I was originally thinking to keep it kind of off to the side, but it's so big. I feel like it actually takes up a lot of the tank, so I might should have it kind of in the middle. It's not really like something you can just have off to the side, you know? I have the Hardscape all added. I did not use all the rocks that I had bought for this scape. I had previously planned to kind of have the driftwood set up on 3 rocks, kind of looking like the vines were clinging to the rocks. However, it was like the driftwood is too tall for that. Because I added such a thick layer of sand and aqua soil, it just wasn't gonna work. And honestly, I'm really liking this look anyway, so I'm kind of happy that it turned out differently. Aquascaping is always kind of like a fun surprise to me. I don't ever have it perfectly planned out, so I'm very happy with how this turned out. I have soaked this, but I do have this rock kind of sitting on some of it. I'm not planning to glue it down, so hopefully it doesn't float when I add in the water and stuff. Let me see if you can, I do have it sort of sitting. Maybe I should glue it down. I don't know. That doesn't look very stable. I just don't like gluing my hardscape down because then you just can't change it whenever. I mean, you can, but it's harder. You have to pull stuff apart and all that. So I think I might just leave it like that. The main like thick pieces of wood have already been soaked in water. And I do need to run to my local fish store for plants. So I'll probably be gone for like an hour and a half. No, I won't be gone for an hour and a half. It's 15 minutes in there, 15 minutes back, 30 minutes. I'll probably be there for 30 minutes. I'll probably be gone for like an hour. And I'm thinking that I should have just buy like some simple, because the scape is so simple, I kind of just want some nice simple plants in the background. I will probably add some Monte Carlo in the front. I've never scaped with Monte Carlo before, but I've heard others say that it is fairly easy to keep alive, but I'm not using CO2 or fertilizer, so I don't know. I'll just take a chance and see how it does. Look at these beautiful discus. Should I start a discus tank? I mean, not right now, but these are beautiful. Wow. Gorgeous. This little cutie. So cute. They're so pretty. So I just got back from the fish store, and I actually did buy something to put in this 10-gallon tank other than plants, but it's not a fish. So you'll have to watch to the end of the video to watch me add them to the tank once I get the tank all set up. I'm pretty excited about them. I'm going to begin adding the plants. I didn't get anything crazy. I got this crypt, which I'm trying to decide where I should put it. I don't know. But I got this crypt, and then I got some dwarf sage. And I have some monstera to put in the up here. I already had it. I have some bamboo for over here, which I already had as well. I'm thinking about gluing some moss onto this wood, just here and there, you know, which I already have the moss. So basically all I bought was some crypts and some dwarf sage, and then the other stuff for the tank. Might put it right here. The dwarf sage is going to go all along the back of the tank. That's a little too close to. I got the tank planted. I kept it real simple with just some dwarf sage along the back and some moss on the driftwood. You can see some back here as well. And then this beautiful crypt that I put in here. They've had it at the fish store for a while now, so I'm hoping it doesn't melt back, but you know, there's a chance it melts back to its submersed form instead of, I assume it was grown immersed, but I'm loving it. The fish store did not have any Monte Carlo, so you know, I think I would like it better if there was some, you know, greenery growing up in here. And I could always do pearlweed, but I kind of wanted something that was really close to the ground. So maybe I'll grab some Monte Carlo next time they have it. They haven't gotten in a plant order for a while. they still had a nice selection, and I was going for very basic, simple plants. I was trying to stay away from stem plants simply because I want this to be an aquarium that needs very little maintenance, including no trimming of the plants. I may have to trim the moss occasionally, but we'll see. Okay, I have the water added now, and I've added water conditioner so it is dechlorinated. I've added the sponge filter and this bamboo. I tried to add this monstera, at least like one little group of it, and it's just way too big for this tank. It was just not going to work. So I may add the monstera to maybe my 40-gallon tank or something. I think it would, you know, be a good size for that. But you can see the water is somewhat cloudy from the sand. I washed this play sand, like rinsed it, flushed it, and used it in a different tank. It was too cloudy, so I washed it again today before adding it in here, and it is less cloudy, and I'm guessing that sponge filter will take care of it in no time. I'm guessing it will look a lot better by tomorrow. Sorry about all the glare. This tank is kind of in front of like my front door, a bunch of windows. The curtains are closed, but still gets plenty of sunlight. And now it is time to show you guys what I picked up from the fish store for this tank. Let me pull it out. So I got a couple of mystery snails. They are yellow mystery snails with like a black foot. I think they're beautiful, and I'm really hoping that one is a male and one is a female so that they'll have babies, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. So I got those. Set that down, and then I got some blue velvet Neocaridina shrimp. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think blue velvet shrimp is basically just a high quality blue dream shrimp. They don't really look all that different, other than I think they're more beautiful. They're such a nice blue. These mystery snails almost look green. They looked yellow in the tank, but I think they look cool. Let's add them in here. And of course I have the lid on, so let me take the lid off first. I've had mystery snails in the past. I don't have any right now because I got really big ones, so they didn't live for very long after I got them. These ones are a little bit smaller, and I just love watching them go along the tank. They're very active, and I love watching them fall from the top of the tank. They just like free fall clear to the bottom. I couldn't record myself adding the shrimp very easily because I had to use both hands, and it wouldn't have worked super well with the tripod, but they're in. And my camera's having a hard time focusing, but they're just so blue and beautiful. I was not planning to add shrimp to this tank. I was going to set this tank up just to have as like a simple betta tank, not a shrimp tank. I was actually going to add these blue velvet shrimp to a 5.5 gallon, which I don't have set up yet, but I was planning to have like a 5.5 gallon, you know, blue dream, just blue shrimp tank, blue velvet, whatever you want to call them. But I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, I should add the blue dream shrimp to this tank, let them reproduce some, and then just take some out for the 5.5 gallon, or just buy some more for the 5.5 gallon and just, you know, have them in both tanks. We'll see if I can be patient enough to get babies and then add them to the 5.5 gallon. You'll notice I did not add a heater to the tank. That is because there's no fish in here that need a heater, and shrimp do best in cooler water. So like, I've kept shrimp with betta fish and they've done fine, but they definitely are going to breed a lot better and just overall be healthier if you don't have a heater in the tank. So that was why I was a bit hesitant to add them to this tank, because I did want this for a betta fish tank. However, I really like shrimp. I think I like shrimp almost as well as I like betta fish. So for now, I'll just have some mystery snails and some shrimp in this tank. Because the lighting is not very good, like there's a lot of glare coming off the tank, I'm going to wait until early tomorrow morning when there's very little light coming in behind the windows, and hopefully the water will be more cleared up and we can get a closer look at the tank then. So it's been a few days since I set up the tank. Today's Monday. I set it up on Friday, I believe. So let's go see how it's doing now. Here's the tank. I am absolutely loving this simple scape. It's simple, yet it makes a big statement, I feel like, and you just cannot beat a simple 10-gallon. The shrimp and the snails are doing absolutely fabulous in this tank. I'm going to include some B-roll footage of them so that you guys can see them better, and I'm not trying to like zoom in and get some good footage of them as I'm speaking. I'm absolutely loving the blue velvet Neocaridina shrimp. Once again, like I said before, I think that they're just like a high quality blue dream shrimp. They're just very vibrantly blue, and I think they are gorgeous. And the snails are just cruising around like mystery snails do. And I also have some bladder snails. Shrimp and snails are my favorite thing to keep in a planted aquarium. Like, you cannot go wrong with shrimp and snails. If you're going to keep like a betta fish or something in the tank, you know, they might pick off the snails. And snails do better in a non-tropical tank, like a tank with no heater. You'll notice I have no heater in this tank. But I have kept Neocaridina shrimp in a heated tank, and they've done well, and they actually bred like crazy. So I don't know how much it actually affects them, but I do know that they do quite well in a tank that is not heated. I was going to originally set this tank up for a betta fish, and I may still add one later down the road. I have a 5.5 gallon tank that I have not set up yet, and that was supposed to be my shrimp tank. I was going to have Blue Dream Neocaridina shrimp in it, but it's not set up yet. And when I went into the fish store and seen all of the gorgeous blue velvet shrimp, I did not want to wait until my 5.5 gallon was set up, because I may not be setting it up for another couple of weeks, and I didn't want to miss out. So I bought them and added them to this tank, and I'm actually considering just keeping this 10-gallon tank as a shrimp tank. I can have my mystery snails in here and my shrimp, and then the 5.5 gallon tank, I could just set it up and use it for a betta fish. Obviously it would be for betta fish with very heavy fins, or betta fish that are just old and have slowed down and would be less stressed in a smaller aquarium. But I do know that a 10-gallon aquarium is a lot more of an appropriate size for most betta fish. So I'm not sure. What do you guys think? I should mention I do have a 40-gallon breeder tank with a betta fish in it, and I also have a 20-gallon long with a betta fish in it. So I do have larger tanks for my betta fish that are more active, have shorter fins. The 5.5 gallon would strictly be for betta fish that don't swim much. They're just not active. They're old, maybe they have a disability, you know, something like that. And then I could just have that for a betta tank and keep this as a shrimp tank. I don't know. I love the simple look of this 10-gallon tank, and I just think it would look great being kept as a shrimp tank and a snail tank. I'm really hoping that these yellow mystery snails will lay a clutch of eggs and produce babies. I have a lid on the aquarium, and I'm hoping that they will lay a clutch near the lid, and that with the lid being on, there will be enough humidity in the tank for the snails to hatch, and I won't have to intervene at all. That's what I'm hoping for. If they don't lay a clutch after a while, I'll assume they're either like both male or both female, and maybe I'll just go buy some more yellow mystery snails. I love mystery snails. I know they're not for everyone, but I do love them. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I have bladder snails in here as well. They obviously just come in on the plants, but I love bladder snails also. If you don't have bladder snails in your planted aquarium, you should definitely add them. They just really help clean up the tank. They're small, they don't make much of an impact, and they won't overbreed your tank or overpopulate your tank unless your parameters are off and you have a bunch of algae or something. Seeing this 10-gallon tank is just a great reminder of how far I've come over the years. About 6 years ago, I believe, I set up my first 10-gallon aquarium, and I'm going to show you guys a picture here on the screen. As you can see, it does not look natural at all. There's nothing natural about this tank. I bought it and I set it up kind of on the spur of the moment. I went into Petco and I seen like the largest betta fish I had ever seen before, and I just had to have him, and I didn't want him to be kept in a small tank, so I thought 10 gallons was very large for a betta fish, and so I set up a 10-gallon tank. And then that 10-gallon tank, as I learned more about fish keeping, that 10-gallon tank just evolved over time, and I'm going to show you guys more pictures of me. You can see how I slowly transition from like everything is super fake and plastic, and then I start adding like a few beginner plants, but still like the super tacky, colorful gravel. And then I just continue, my 10-gallon tanks continue to change until now I've ended up with this 10-gallon tank, which has it looks so much more natural, but it also has so much more like texture and depth to it. I don't know if you guys really get what I'm saying. I might not be explaining it very well, but the tank looks larger than 10 gallons because of how it's scaped. At least that's what I think. When you scape a tank properly, you can really make it look larger, in my opinion anyway. As you've seen in the photos, the tanks I set up, they were just very like flat. There was really no depth to them, if you guys get what I mean. And I'm not a professional aquascaper by any means, but MD Fish Tanks on YouTube has been a huge inspiration to me. I've learned so much about aquascaping, and I've been having a lot of fun aquascaping my tanks. I always just set them up in such a simple way, and I was like, oh, I just love simple tanks, and I still love simple tanks, but you can really make a simple scape go a long ways. I set this 10-gallon tank up to be simple. I didn't add any stem plants. I set up plants that need very little maintenance. They do not need a lot of light. They do not need any fertilizers, nothing. These plants, it's dwarf sag and crypt, and they are extremely easy to maintain. Now, they are going to pull less nutrients out of the water at first until they start taking over the tank. So I can't just set this tank up and just not do any water changes like I've done with some of my tanks in the past. However, as this tank matures, I shouldn't have to do any water changes. I only have a few shrimp in here and some mystery snails, and of course bladder snails. And so as this tank matures, probably within 5 to 6 months, I should have to do less water changes until probably around a year or so. I shouldn't have to do any. And then at that point, I shouldn't have to be doing any maintenance on the plants either. Now, don't get me wrong, I love stem plants. They're great. However, they do need trimmed on a regular basis, and I just wanted this tank to be super low-key, super low maintenance. And I just really love the way that this tank ended up turning out. It turned out better than what I had envisioned it. So I'm super excited about that. I think it might possibly be my favorite tank, which is kind of funny. It's just a 10-gallon, but I think it's my favorite, and there's not even like any fish in there. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this tank, and thank you guys so much for watching.